Warhammer 40k for the most part is an extremely popular and expensive tabletop game, much like Dungeons & Dragons or Battletech, except that in 40k, majority of matches consist of one player's army going up against the army of another player in an overly complicated game of chess where moves and attacks are determined by dice rolls. The rules as well can differ between each type of game. For example, the rules of a simple and quick skirmish match will differ from that of a large-scale battle, but for the most part, the abilities and tactics of each faction will more or less stay the same across game types, but there may be specific modifications and adjustments depending on the game mode and the scale to make each match within the various game types more balanced and fair regardless of factional differences. The very first appearance of the Space Marines would be in Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader in the year 1987, which was also the very first appearance of the tabletop game itself, as a sort of early spin on Games Workshop's other flagship tabletop franchise at the time, Warhammer Fantasy, which was first released in 1983. Initially, the idea behind Rogue Trader was basically just a sci-fi spin on the themes, characters and medieval tropes found in fantasy battle, with many of the factions being carried over to the setting of 40k, like the Orcs and Elves, who essentially became Space Orcs and Space Elves, magic users becoming Psykers, and Paladins or Knights becoming Space Marines, and so on. It would only be in the year 1990 when the Space Marines would actually get some sort of a backstory in the book Realm of Chaos, The Lost and the Damned, written by former Games Workshop employees Rick Priestley and Brian Ansell. It introduced the original 20 Space Marine legions, as well as their Primarchs, who are essentially the high-ranking generals of each Space Marine chapter. In this book, there was also the very first mention of the Horus Heresy, the civil war of the 30th millennium in which 9 of the legions converted to the worship of the Chaos Gods and rebelled against the Emperor, after one of the Primarchs, the Imperial War Master Horus Lupercal, willingly giving himself over to Chaos and uniting the traitor Space Marine legions against the Imperium.